Scorpio, there's something you've been carrying for exactly 15 years and didn't even know you were carrying. An invisible weight, a debt you never knew you owed, a pattern that repeated itself without you understanding why, a shadow that followed you, whispering that you didn't deserve certain things, that certain doors would remain locked, that certain blessings would never arrive. On September 3rd and 4th, 2025, this debt will be officially paid off. The universe will finally give you the receipt. The invisible prison you've been living in will open, and you will breathe an air you haven't breathed in a decade and a half. You feel it, don't you? That subtle shift in the energy field around you, as if something were loosening, as if invisible strings holding you back were being cut one by one. Have you been waking up differently these past few days? With a strange feeling that something fundamental is shifting, even if you can't quite put your finger on it? This isn't your imagination creating fantasies, it's your soul recognizing that the time for payment has come to an end. For 15 years, since 2010, you've been living under the influence of something you've never quite identified, a force that made certain things harder for you than for others, that made you work twice as hard to achieve half the result, that placed specific obstacles in your path, always just when you were about to achieve something important, that made you question whether you truly deserved the good things you desired. This wasn't bad luck. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't random circumstances conspiring against you. It was a specific karmic debt being paid off, a lesson being learned through direct experience, a force balancing something that happened in another incarnation, or even earlier in this life, that created an imbalance that needed to be corrected. You have been the instrument of your own transformation, paying off a debt with the currency of experience, growth, and conscious suffering. Scorpio, remember 2010. Remember what was happening in your life at that moment. Something changed, something closed, something that seemed possible suddenly became impossible. A door that was open slammed in your face. A dream that seemed within your reach simply fell apart. A person you loved disappeared from your life. A path you'd been following for years suddenly became impassable. That was the moment your karmic debt began to be paid off. And since then, you've faced specific patterns that repeat themselves with a precision that sometimes leaves you desperate. People who disappoint you in the same way. Opportunities that appear brilliantly and then mysteriously fade away. Moments where you feel like you're about to achieve something important, but something always interferes at the last second. Relationships that begin with transformative potential and end with you feeling used, betrayed, or abandoned. These patterns weren't coincidence. They were your soul working to balance a specific debt. Every disappointment, every obstacle, every moment where you had to swallow hard and keep going, even when you wanted to give up. All of it was paying something off. It was purifying something. It was preparing you for a level of existence that would only be possible after this cleansing was complete. The most painful thing is that you always knew you were different, that you had the potential for so much more than you could manifest, that there was something inside you screaming to be released, but it seemed blocked by an invisible force. You looked in the mirror and saw someone capable of extraordinary things, but when you tried to turn that vision into reality, you always ran into invisible walls. For Scorpios born between October 23rd and November 2nd, this karmic debt is related to the use of personal power. 15 years ago, you lost or abused a position of influence, and since then, you have learned humility through limitation. For those born between November 3rd and 12th, the debt involves issues of trust and vulnerability. You have hurt someone deeply and have experienced that pain firsthand. And for those born between November 13th and 21st, karma is linked to the destructive use of emotional intensity. You have provoked traumatic transformations in others and now know intimately what it is like to be transformed by suffering. But regardless of their specific origins, all Scorpios have lived these 15 years under the same reality, the feeling of being constantly tested, of having to prove their worth over and over again, of achieving things more difficultly than others, of carrying a weight no one else can see or understand, of being strong not by choice but by necessity for survival. Scorpio, on September 3rd and 4th, 2025, all that changes. The debt will be officially paid off. The universe will release an energetic statement that says, "This soul has fully paid off its debt." All blockages related to this karmic situation must be removed immediately. All limitations imposed by this lesson must cease. This soul is free to operate at its full potential. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack for 15 years and suddenly someone says to you, "Take it off. You don't need it anymore." The feeling of relief will be so intense it might even scare you. You'll literally feel lighter. You'll breathe deeper. You'll look at the world with eyes that haven't been this clear in a decade and a half. Opportunities that seemed impossible will bloom like flowers in spring. Paying off this debt won't happen subtly. It will be marked by specific, impossible-to-ignore events. On September 3rd and 4th, you'll receive clear signs that something fundamental has shifted in your reality. It could be an opportunity that appears out of nowhere, a person from the past who returns, bringing closure or a new possibility, a situation that magically resolves itself after years of being stuck. An insight that finally connects all the dots of your experience, but the clearest sign will be internal. You'll wake up one of these days and feel something you haven't felt in 15 years, the genuine sense that you deserve good things, that you have a right to happiness, that you no longer need to prove anything to anyone, not even the universe. That you can relax in the knowledge that you're free to be who you truly are, without the invisible restraints that limited your expression. Transformation won't just be about receiving things that were previously denied. It will be about a fundamental shift in your relationship with power, with worth, with possibility. You'll discover that you can manifest realities with surprising ease. You'll discover that people respond to you differently. You'll discover that opportunities arise naturally without you having to force or manipulate situations. Scorpio, during these 15 years, you developed spiritual muscles that most people never develop. You learned to function under pressure, to transform pain into wisdom, to find strength where others would find only despair, to survive situations that would break less intense people. These skills will not disappear when the debt is paid off. They will become your tools to build the new life that can now be lived without karmic limitations. The paradox is that now that you no longer need to be so strong, you'll find you're stronger than ever. Now that you no longer need to fight so hard, you'll find you can achieve more with less effort. Now that you no longer need to prove your worth, you'll find your worth is naturally recognized by others. The pressure that molded you into steel will now allow you to cut through any obstacle with ease. But there's a condition for this liberation. You must forgive. Not just forgive others who were part of the painful process of these 15 years. You must forgive the universe for allowing you to suffer so much. Forgive life for being so hard on you. And most importantly, forgive yourself for everything you did or didn't do during this period of karmic retribution. Forgiveness isn't for the benefit of the person who hurt you. It's to break the last chains that bind you to the past. It's to signal to the universe that you're ready for a completely new reality. It's to release the energy still trapped in old hurts and channel it into creating extraordinary futures. Without forgiveness, the debt may technically be paid off, but you'll continue to behave like a prisoner even with the cell door open. You'll start to notice more significant changes. People who've ignored you for years will suddenly show genuine interest in you. Situations that seemed permanently stuck will begin to move. Opportunities you weren't even pursuing will begin to present themselves. Your own emotional state will begin to stabilize to a level of peace you almost forgot was possible. Don't question these changes. Don't look for logical explanations. Don't try to understand why things are suddenly flowing after being stuck for so long. Simply accept that your time has come. that you paid what you owed and now have the right to receive what you always deserved. That the universe isn't unfair, it just has a complex accounting system that operates on a timescale far greater than our human perspective can encompass. Scorpio, one of the most devastating things about these 15 years was the feeling of being punished without knowing why, of being a good person going through bad things, of seeing less spiritually evolved people easily achieving what you couldn't achieve even with great effort. This sense of cosmic injustice was one of the hardest parts of your ordeal. Now you'll understand that it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The universe wasn't punishing you, it was forging you. Every disappointment you faced removed a layer of naivete that needed to be shed. Every betrayal you survived strengthened your capacity for discernment. Every time you had to rebuild yourself from scratch developed your resilience. Every time you had to transform pain into growth sharpened your skill at spiritual alchemy. You have been transformed into something that existed only as potential 15 years ago. The person you are today has depth, wisdom, strength, and power that could only have been developed through the exact process you went through. And now that development is complete, the limitations that force that growth can be removed. What will happen on September 3rd and 4th isn't just the end of a difficult period. It's your real-life university graduation. It's the moment the universe recognizes that you've completed your karmic course of study and are qualified to operate on a completely new level of existence. It's as if you've been running with ankle weights on for 15 years and suddenly someone removes them. You'll discover you can run much faster than you imagined. The new reality that opens up for you won't be a life without challenges. It will be a life where challenges make sense, where you have the right tools to deal with them, where each obstacle is an opportunity to apply the wisdom you've gained. You won't become a weak or spoiled person. You'll become a strong person who can finally use your strength to build, rather than simply survive. In the coming months after paying off your debt, you'll need to adjust to your new reality. It'll be like someone who's lived in a dark cave for 15 years, suddenly thrust into the sunlight. Your eyes will need to adjust. Your reflexes will need to recalibrate. You may even miss the dramatic intensity that characterized your life during the karmic payment period. This nostalgia is normal and temporary. You're not losing your intense Scorpio essence. You're gaining the ability to choose when and where to apply that intensity, rather than having it constantly activated as a defense mechanism. You're evolving from someone who reacts intensely to everything to someone who can modulate their intensity as the situation requires. Scorpio, there's one last thing you need to know about paying off this karmic debt. It's not just for your personal benefit. You've been prepared during these 15 years to help others who are going through the same trials you faced. Your experience of transforming suffering into wisdom will be a powerful tool to guide others through their own growth processes. You'll discover a natural ability to recognize when someone is in the midst of their own karmic retribution. You'll be able to offer the kind of understanding and support you wish you had received during your most difficult time. Your story of overcoming obstacles will become a source of hope for people going through what you've experienced. This doesn't mean you'll become a savior or therapist for all the world's wounded. It means your own healing will naturally radiate healing energy to others, that your own liberation will inspire others to seek their own liberation, that your own transformation will serve as proof that it is possible to emerge stronger and wiser on the other side. September 3rd and 4th, 2025 will mark not only the end of your personal karmic debt, but the beginning of a new chapter where you can consciously contribute to collective upliftment, where you can use everything you've learned to help reduce unnecessary suffering in the world, where you can be part of the solution to the kinds of problems you know intimately. During those 15 years, there were times when you probably questioned whether it was worth continuing, whether the pain you were feeling served some greater purpose or was simply random cruelty, whether you were strong enough to make it through to the other side in one piece, whether there was truly something better waiting on the other side of so much suffering. Now you will discover that every tear you shed was an investment, that every moment of despair was a deposit into the account of your spiritual evolution, that every time you chose to continue when you wanted to give up, you were building the muscle that will now allow you to create miracles in your life and the lives of others. The universe finally heard you because you finally learned to speak the language it understands. Not the language of complaint or victimhood, but the language of conscious transformation. Not the language of why me, but the language of what does this teach me? Not the language of resistance, but the language of active acceptance of the growth process. Scorpio, when you wake up on September 3rd and 4th, take a break, take a deep breath. Feel the difference in the quality of the air entering your lungs. Notice the lightness in your shoulders where there was previously heaviness. Notice the clarity in your eyes where there was previously fog. Recognize the peace in your heart where there was previously constant turmoil. This isn't a temporary or illusory change. It's a real, permanent, deserved change. You've paid your debt not just with suffering, but with conscious growth. Not just with resistance, but with active transformation. Not just by surviving, but evolving through each difficult experience. And now, free from the karmic limitations that have been operating in your life for 15 years, you can finally discover what you're truly capable of when there are no invisible forces working against you. You can discover what it's like to live when the universe is genuinely conspiring in your favor instead of seemingly conspiring against you. You can experience what it's like to manifest your dreams when there are no karmic debts blocking the flow of abundance toward you. If this revelation touched something deep within you, if you recognized your own story in these words, don't ignore that recognition. Share in the comments what changed in your life in 2010 and what patterns have been repeating themselves since then. Your experiences will validate the experiences of other Scorpios who have gone through the same karmic payment process. Subscribe to the channel because what happens on September 3rd and 4th will be just the beginning of a completely new phase of your existence. You'll need guidance on how to navigate this new reality, how to integrate the lessons learned during the 15 years of probation, and how to use your newfound freedom constructively. Turn on notifications so you don't miss specific guidance for your new phase. Your 15-year karmic debt has been paid off. The receipt is being processed. Liberation is coming, and when it does, you will finally understand that all the pain was worth it because it transformed you into the extraordinary person you needed to be to live the extraordinary life that can now be lived without invisible limitations. The universe has finally heard you, Scorpio, because you have finally learned to speak the language of conscious transformation.